Thank you for staying with us on the program. It's Politics Today on Channels Television. Well, River State takes our attention tonight. River State was tagged one of the hottest spots during the 2015 general elections. And indeed, it was bloody and dirty as politicians fought hard. They fought their way through the campaign period and during the elections. Even at one of our coverage of the election, a colleague of mine, Charles Aruka, only escaped death by whiskers after being stabbed in the jugular. That will tell you just how tense and intense the situation was in the state. How now we know the winner of the governorship contest after the Supreme Court ruled that Mr. Nyesom Wike is a duly elected governor of the state. But the storm may not be over yet. The fierce battle for the store of the state, that is River State, continues as we gear up for the rerun polls in March. Let's talk about the several issues. Dr. Tam George, the Commissioner for Information, River State, joins me now. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Things seems to be now gathering momentum, even more, similar to what we saw at the 2015 general election. What's the situation of things? Is a party really on top of the situation?
Oh yes, we won the elections in the general elections. No, we had elections. Governor Wike emerged as winner. There was a litigation process. Part of constitutional democracy is that when a winner emerges and the other party says they are not satisfied, you can litigate it in court. Now, we've gone through the entire litigation process up to the Supreme Court, and Wike's, election was duly, affirmed by the Supreme Court. So the situation now is that Rivers people are beginning to recognize that sovereignty really belongs to them. And that in the final analysis, no matter the length of the litigation process, the people's will has eventually prevailed. So what we have in Rivers State, frankly, is that the people expect the government to deliver service. Because for us who are in government, we recognize that there is a social contract, between the government and the people. And part of this social contract entails the people, legitimizing the government, conferring legitimacy on government, and then the government in turn delivering service to the people. So for us, the campaigns are over, the elections are over, the entire gamut of the litigation process is over. Now what is left, in fact, is for the government to render service to the people. What we've seen over the past several months, in fact, has been revolutionary by Nigerian standards. Governor Wike has started reconstructed roads, over 90 kilometers of road across the spectrum of the state. There are all kinds of empowerment programs going on. Just a Saturday ago, just 1 week ago, we empowered 36,000 people. One of the major impediments, Sean, is, as you know, in the banking sector, is that before you take a loan, you will have to put down collateral. And for small and medium scale enterprises, this is a major impediment. So what Governor Wike has done was to say, look, the CBN, give the 2 billion naira, we will stand as collateral to the CBN, and then we will remove that impediment to small and medium scale enterprises, and then empower them directly in a way, that directly affects their businesses. So people are going, over 36,000 people are going to be caught in that loan net as part of empowerment.
Let me quickly take you through the outcome, the reasons why the Supreme Court gave that verdict is coming clearer now.
Yeah.
And it looks so much that the APC in River State is not happy with that outcome, and several allegations are coming up against the judiciary in this matter. What do you make of some of the allegations and the relationship of Governor Wike with the some members of the judiciary in this particular matter?
First of all, it's very difficult for me to dignify some of the statements made by Mr. Dakuku Peterside and the APC. Because it's very unfortunate. It's very irresponsible. When, as I said, we recognize that there is a constitutional process that says if you organize elections and a party is not happy with the outcome, you can litigate it. Governor Wike lost in the first round. He lost on appeal. And then the whole of these arguments were then relitigated in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has come to say these are the reasons why this man should be duly returned. Now, to go back and launch a campaign of calumny against the judicial system is the most responsible act. If you get involved in the judicial process and you don't have confidence in the process, then we are down to anarchy. Throughout the time, these judgments were given in the negative for Wike, he continued publicly to reaffirm, continue to repeat his confidence in the judicial process.
If you look at, sorry if I may cut in, if you look at the election process in Rivers State, it was marked by a lot of violence. We saw a lot of violence. It's perhaps that point where we saw the most violence in 2015 general elections. Why are we seeing that kind of violence, that level of violence? Because the APC will say your members are the ones responsible for it. And the kind of death that, for example, the death of the man, the politician, the former lawmaker that we're seeing today, testifies to the fact that political violence is still very rife in Rivers State.
Well, you see, before the elections, before the general elections, the former governor of Rivers State, Mr. Rotimi Amechi, he made it clear that, look, this election was not even between Wike and Akuku side. This election was ultimately a referendum on me. And the verdict was in. You see, Rotimi Amechi left one of the most disastrous legacies in the history of politics in Rivers State. What I mean is that he left the most number of abandoned projects in the history of the state since 1967. Although the state received an unprecedented amount of money, over 3 trillion naira in federal allocations alone. I'm not talking about internally generated revenues. He started monorail project. 60 billion naira down the drain. No such project now exists in its completed form. Over 200 billion naira spent on the Greater Port Harcourt project. No city for anyone to see. He started the Rainbow project, which started in 2010, completion year 2013. At the cost of 40 billion. In 2013, the project was never completed.
You're not talking about the ones he has completed.
Yes, no.
The school projects
The point I'm making, if you come to Rivers State, and I've been in the education sector, good that you mentioned the school project. I've been in the education sector for 22 years. And I know that when you go to Port Harcourt and you see the schools he built, a lot of them are not being used because a lot of them are simply dysfunctional. So the point I'm making is that when the election time came, there was a critical mass of opinion that said, we are going to make a clean break with the Rotimi Amechi legacy. And so the people were insisting on making sure that every single vote counted. The APC wouldn't have it that way. They wanted to stifle the voice of the people.
So
who was responsible for the violence? I don't know. I challenge the federal authorities.
Is the Governor Wike administration going to probe the Amechi administration?
It's not a matter of whether we will probe. We have already probed that administration. We instituted we instituted a judicial panel of inquiry, which was challenged by Mr. Amechi. He went to court, and the judge said, look, this investigation was not into your personal life. They wanted you to give account of your stewardship. If you had resources under your control, 3 trillion naira over the past 8 years, you need to give account of how this money was. This was public accountability.
And because
what happened then was the judge simply said, go and defend yourself. Let this judicial panel of inquiry be conducted. And now, as I speak, there is a comprehensive indictment of not just the former governor and a bunch of his cohorts. Now, you see, some people are asking, and I recognize the importance of that question, why is he not being prosecuted? You see, we want to make sure that this is not coming across to people, especially to the APC, as a vindictive witch hunt. What we are doing is to make sure that the judicial process takes its normal course. Some of the files we are seeing before us are so scandalous, and some of them are multinational in the sense that transfers have been made to several countries, which means, the investigation has to be multinational. And if it is multinational legally, what this means is that it is also the litigation process, the prosecution process.
Just a moment. If you say that the Wike administration has some of these facts, Are you pushing it to the EFCC, or is the state prosecuting this case by itself?
Yes, exactly the point I was going to make. You see, some of these financial transactions have multinational dimension, meaning that the investigative process is also inevitably multinational. Therefore, judicially, what this means is that our reaction to the litigation process is also going to be multi-jurisdictional. Some of the cases will be prosecuted here, but in cases of clear financial crimes that are multinational in nature, they will also be prosecuted abroad.
All right, just a moment. We'll take a moment here on the program. It's River of Politics that we're talking about. The Supreme Court, the outcome of the Supreme Court judgment in the election of largely between Mr. Wike and Mr. Dakuku Petersad, and the issue of the rerun election are all we're talking about. You just join us in the conversation. But when we return, we'll talk more. Stay with us.